Thanks so much for being here tonight. I'm joined by Mac from Joanne Pino and Lilia Malitsky, who will be helping us with the questions as we go through. We are really grateful and thrilled tonight that Stephanie Monaghan-Blout and Nancy Roosa are here today to talk about how to help children with anxiety during this time of COVID while everybody is at home. We know these are incredibly stressful times for kids with all types of disabilities and for families, and we know that we're all reeling with the news that probably most of us were kind of anticipating. The schools are now definitely closed for the rest of the school year, probably raising everybody's anxiety levels at this point. So we want to jump in because we know we have a lot to cover in a very short time. At the bottom of your screen is a chat button, and if you can submit any questions you have, then Lilia will read the questions to our generous presenters at the end, and please provide us any comments as well. We'll do our best to get to all your questions. We may not get to all of them, and please call our helpline if you have any questions or any specific questions about your kids' situation, and all that contact information will be provided. Lilia, anything I'm forgetting before we turn it over?
Nope, that's it.
Thank you so much, Stephanie and Nancy, and on to you while everybody's here.
Right. Hi, I'm Nancy. Stephanie and I are both neuropsychologists, and we're very happy to be here. Grateful to Mass Advocates for setting this up. We just wanted to, it's a short chat, so we're gonna jump right in and talk about why anxiety is the new normal in this.
So our first question is, what is stress and anxiety? And I always really want to start with this because it's a pretty reasonable reaction right now to parents and children to be worried about this, because right now your life has pretty much been turned upside down and nobody's got an answer for you. And that is the kind of thing that brings up stress and anxiety. I mean, I always, I have a talk that I like to do, and it's called Stop Trash Talking Stress and Anxiety, because the point of the fact of the matter is that stress, the stress response, the physiological experience that we have of anxiety is really an adaptive response, and it's a survival response. It helps us just to do something to get away, to escape from danger. And when we feel that we're in danger, our brain sends signals to our bodies to start getting ready. We increase our heart rate, our breathing rate gets faster. We send glucose or fuel to our muscles so we can move quickly. It shuts down things that aren't real important, like rest, digest, and thinking things through carefully and creatively, and puts all of our energy and our body's resources into getting away from things, like, for instance, tigers. So that's how our ancestors sort of made it to this point in time, is that we were really good at getting stressed out and getting anxious enough to get away from tigers. So on a subjective experience, anxiety really is a psychological experience, and that's the experience of all those changes in our body. If you can think about a time where you were really anxious, you remember that when your heart started fluttering and you start going faster and faster, and your mouth got dry, and your stomach kind of got all kind of flustered, and you had this sort of weird feeling, this feeling of dread, of uncertainty, or not knowing what was going on, and a fear that, oh my God, am I going to be able to do, what if I can't do something about this? And that fear of not being able to manage what's facing you.
Which is where we all are right now.
Right. So now, some anxiety is good. That's what gets us to, like, study for a test. That's what gets us to, like, respond to our bosses, getting in on time for work and responding to our bosses' expectations. It's good to have a little stress, but too much stress is really overwhelming. Too much. Remember that what we do is, when you're really anxious, you're not thinking anymore. That part of the brain gets shut down, and all that. If you put homework in front of a kid, he's not absolutely sure how to do it, and it completely flips out. And as Nancy puts it, the only language that's available to which most kids at that point is just to scream. Okay. Now, anxiety takes a lot of different forms. So everybody's heard of the fight, flight, and freeze, and those are really important. Every kid is likely to respond in their own way. Most of us have a particular favorite fight, flight, or freeze response, and also we use different ones at different times. Go to the next slide. But the anxiety, that stress can cause different behaviors in kids. It can look it's a lot of the behaviors that kind of make you crazy around your kid. So hyperactive behavior, the bouncing, jiggling, talking, can't stop moving, it's like, just they're constantly just moving all the time. The distractibility or spaciness. Our kids can look really sad. They can be incredibly irritable. They can be shut down, and that's the freeze response. They can have problems either getting to sleep or staying asleep, and they could be having nightmares. They might have new difficulties with eating. Either they eat too much, they eat too little, or all of a sudden that thing that they used to love to eat, they're real fussy about it. They won't eat anything, or they'll be really fussy about how it's cooked. And then I think also sort of the emergence or escalation of repetitive behaviors. And this isn't just for our kids on the spectrum. This is also for our other kids. They may rock, they may hum, they may pace. Those are all, indications that this kid's really anxious and a lot of distress.
And we want to emphasize this because I think sometimes people think of anxiety as just deer in the headlights, and in kids, particularly when they don't have language, is how to express it. It can show up in so many different ways.
Right. So how can you help? Well, the very first step, and this is always, I think it almost feels counterintuitive, but really the first step is you. Our emotions are contagious. If we as a parent are anxious and worried, your kid can sense it. I mean, you may think that you're hiding things from your kids, but honestly, they know at some level, they know when you don't feel good and you feel really scared or uncomfortable. And it's going to make them more anxious and more likely to bring up some of those behaviors that we talked about earlier. Remember the sign when you go on an airplane and it says, please fix your oxygen mask first before helping others? That's really important, because if you're not available to your kids, it doesn't matter, all of your good intentions in the world, you can't, if you don't have the resources and the capacity to take care of, to help kids out, it isn't going to be at all any help for them. And I think the other thing that goes along with that is, God, we've got to be kind to ourselves. We're so hard on ourselves. Look, I think parents are all home now, and all of a sudden you're supposed to be a teacher, you're supposed to be a counselor, you're supposed to be a coach, you're supposed to be all these things, but you're actually just a parent. You're not a superhero, and you're not perfect. We're people, we're not perfect at anything, So let's just give ourselves a little bit of a break. And then I think that the very, very first step in helping your child feel less stressed and anxious is just take a deep breath. Now, there are reasons for that. From a physiological perspective, taking a deep breath actually turns off the stress system. And it's really weird, but it really does. I mean, it just actually makes all your calming system come on and just sort of calms you down. But the other thing that it does for you is it gives you a chance to think about what you're going to say before you open your mouth and something comes out that maybe you're going to feel bad about later. So it gives you a chance just to think for a minute. And then it's a great thing to teach your kids too. As a kid is really getting amped up to say, okay, well, hold on. I want to hear what you have to say. Just take a deep breath first, and then we'll talk. Okay. I think that when we look back at anxiety and treating anxiety, and we realize that the thing that's really most important, the two things that are really critical, the first is to help kids feel safe. And then the second is to learn some skills to help them take care of themselves. Because remember those two things about anxiety. Anxiety is that experience of feeling like this sort of dread about uncertainty, that you don't know where the danger is going to come from, and you're also not sure you're able to manage it, that maybe you're feeling helpless and out of control. So the goals of any kind of behaviors that we want to use to help our kids is to help them feel safe and help them learn how to take care of themselves. Now, this is a slide that has a lot of words on it, but basically what we're saying is it's a three-step process. The first is to validate feelings. That doesn't mean you have to agree with them, but just to say, wow, you look really stressed right now. Boy, you really don't like those math problems, do you? Or fractions are really giving you a hard time. That's not saying, it's just saying, I understand I'm trying to understand how you're feeling right now, and I appreciate it, and it's really okay. The second thing is to do something for them or to them to help them feel calm and connected. And it can be as simple as you can sit, depending on the kid, sitting next to them. It can be, let me get you a cup of hot chocolate. It can be, how about take a break? Let's take a little break and we'll play a quick game of Uno or something, some game that you like to play. And then the third piece is they can help them learn a skill. So you could say also, look, tell you what, I'm going to sit down with you. We're going to go through the first two problems together, and then we'll look at that. And then, when you're finished, then we'll go play again. Because it doesn't matter which order that you do these in, but if you do the three of them, validate feelings, do something for them to help them feel calm and connected, and then help them learn a skill like how to get through that problem, or how to organize their homework, or how to, if they need to talk to their teacher about something, what they want to say to their teacher. Okay.
I think I'm going to jump in here, right, Steph?
Yep.
So, I think the thing that we're really going to emphasize here is helping your children, as Stephanie's saying, really feel safe as they can, and securely connected to you. That really is one of the most important things.
It really, that's the bottom line.
And so we have a few suggestions. Our first prescription is play. This is an important one. Take this seriously. Your doctor says you have to play.
Right.
I'm kind of joking, but it's really hard to feel anxious if you're laughing, and more importantly, just taking time out to have fun can build feelings of safety and connection. I know that can feel really hard when you're feeling stressed and times are hard, but it is kind of important and hopefully kind of fun too. In this and in other places throughout the rest of this, we're going to be talking about ways that you can bring in your school team. So, lots of us have fun things that we do with our kids, but it's also great to ask the school teacher or the team, what are the things that they like to do at school? Can we replicate any of that here?
There's also there's a resource list that you're going to get. It'll be sent to you. And one of the things on the resource list is something about enhancing executive function skills, which doesn't sound at all fun. But what was actually included in that thing, and I really advise people to take a look at it. It's a lot of games, just silly little games that we play that we don't even think of, like playing. I'm going to go visit my grandmother. In my suitcase, I put that silly game. There's a lot of things that kids learn from that. It's actually paying attention, it's auditory memory, a variety of things. But even though those silly little things, it doesn't have to be a big thing, just a little thing,
Okay. And you want to also try to, keep up your routines as best you can, given all the change. It does help kids feel safe and secure when some of life continues in a normal way. So meals, bedtimes, it's great to have a time to get outside every day, and a time to do your family reading and chats with friends and family. I know everybody is telling you to keep a schedule.
Keep a schedule.
Keep a schedule, stay flexible. This is going around try to have something scheduled every hour. And obviously that's, you can ask the teacher for a copy of the classroom schedule, but then do not feel like you have to try to replicate the school day. Stay flexible, work with your child. I just put a picture here of the visual schedules. It's something that younger classrooms use all the time. Can be really helpful for kids to see the pictures of those. And again, you can either get that from the school or get it online. Again, gratitude is one of these things that has been shown again and again to be a really powerful antidote to depression, and to really help you ward off feelings of helplessness and anxiety. So if you can try to carve out just a few minutes every day to you and your family think about what you're grateful for. And this should not be like the recitation that you had to do when you were 12 at grandma's house. I'm grateful for my mom and dad. You really have to kind of feel it. You have to spend some time and get into that feeling of gratitude and actually feel how wonderful it is that it was a sunny day today. Or
and this doesn't have to be a big thing. It can,
table.
Yeah, it can be just something little like I'm really glad that I've got big, strong legs and I can walk a long way.
And along with this, I think helping, like Stephanie was saying, of helping kids feel empowered, or taking care of themselves, competent, giving back to other people is a wonderful thing for kids to feel too. So even if they just want to, make a fun sign for the window or put together some food to take to the food pantry, or go outside and clap for the healthcare workers at 7 o'clock. I really love this thing. I will confess I found it on Facebook, so I'm not sure this is actually a real teacher, but they say it very well, so we're going to quote it here. And this teacher is saying, don't worry about schoolwork. I will get your kid back on track in September. What I liked is that they say, what I can't fix is social and emotional trauma that prevents the brain from learning. And that's kind of our message here, is that if a child is socially, emotionally distraught, they're not capable of learning anything. So again, the letter continues. So right now, I just need you to share your calm, share your strength, and share your laughter with your children. No kids are ahead, no kids are behind. Your children are exactly where they need to be. And that said, the State Department of Education has made it very clear that schools are supposed to be doing the best job they can, helping continue your child's education. We know that they are all trying to figure it out, so nobody has this perfect yet. And we've also heard that there's a huge variety in the different ways and how well schools are doing this in terms of providing virtual classrooms and making connections with the kids in their classrooms. So it is important to be patient with them, but it's also important to be an advocate for your child. If your child's on an IEP, they should be having some contact with the kind of special educators and therapists that they were supposed to be seeing in school. If it's all going well, that's great. If it's not, you may need to be a squeaky wheel. Don't be afraid to ask the school team for time with a special teacher online or a therapist they really connect with. And if it's also really important to document what is and isn't happening, that someday we may go back to normal school that happens in a classroom with a teacher. And it is important for you to be able to tell the school team how much got done. Was your child able to focus? Was your child able to sit and do work independently or with your help? How distressed were they during this period of time? And what supports and services were provided? Was it 1 hour a week of speech, or was it, or none? Or was it the 3 that they were supposed to be getting on their IEP? Probably not the 3, but. And again, the schools are trying their best for the most part and trying to figure this out. But we want to encourage you all to access the resources of your school team. These are people who've been working with your child, and they hopefully know what works best. Just some of the suggestions. If your child is having trouble sitting down and doing homework, you can ask a behavior specialist to provide you with a behavior plan, something either that they did at school or something that's new for now, just to help provide some rewards and reinforcement for getting through. Speech therapists are really good at devising social stories that can help a child deal with a novel situation. Or just, explain what's going on in a pictorial way that in language a child can grasp. And then the occupational therapists are really good with strategies for self-regulation. Again, don't be afraid to ask for these strategies to be individualized to your child. We just want to say, I've been reading some things about how during crises, usually what happens is people come together in new ways. And I think that's what we hope to see out of this. We are not alone, we're in this together, and there are a lot of really great resources available. The resource list that Stephanie put together is wonderful. Some of the things that we listed here are just parent-to-parent supports if you need them. Nextdoor is an organization that I've joined in my town, and I think they have all around, and people just put on things they need or can offer. A lot of therapists are doing online therapy, and some are offering reduced price sessions. So helppro.org is a great place to find a therapist within your area. And if you're really feeling desperate, please reach out to a suicide prevention line or another hotline or therapist that can help you.
And we provided a list of those hotlines in the resource list. So.
And I think that's it. Do we have questions?
We do. We have a lot of questions. We also have a poll that we wanted to send out. Let's see if that works. We just wanted to know what people are thinking for future chat topics and how long you'd like the chats to be. So I'm going to launch that. Everyone can put in their answer. The chats have been a half an hour so far, but we're thinking of extending, so just let us know. in that poll box what you prefer. Okay, first question. We get a lot of questions at MAC actually about kids having trouble sleeping. So this question is from someone in the chat box. I'm a parent that is still working, and I work at a hospital, which makes my son more anxious. He doesn't sleep much, and I'm exhausted. How can I get him relaxed so he can sleep and so I can go to work and function? It's been very hard.
And Nancy, actually, I'm thinking about your lazy 8 there as one of the things. Remember, one of the issues with sleep is that, again, when you're anxious, we're hyped up because we're feeling endangered in some way, and you can't go to sleep when you're hyped up. That's the calming system. So what the trick is to really find ways to help kids sort of relax. And if you're a parent who has to work at night and you just don't have the time for this, that's really difficult. Or you're just getting back from work, when the kid is still, should have been asleep, 2 hours ago and they're still awake. It's really difficult. I think one of the things that, we always suggest for parents is to have a routine, to have, a bath, sort of all the kinds of things that sort of slow your body down. One of the things that I've found that's really useful, and then I'm going to turn it to Nancy, is if you can't be there for your kid, you can be there. So when I did my internship, I had to move. I was in New York, and I had family here. I had little kids here, and so I would go back and forth every night, every weekend from Boston and Massachusetts. So it was hard for me to be with my kids. And so one of the things that we did was I had tapes for them. I taped my singing all the songs that I would sing to them and for have them help fall asleep, or the stories that we would tell. And they could listen to my voice and just sort of begin to relax a little bit at the times that I couldn't be there for them. So that's like one kind of possibility. To let them have your scarf or your special toy or something that reminds them of you and helps them sort of relax because it's there. It's something else. You want to talk about the breathing thing, Nancy?
I guess first I was just going to say, I think it's important to recognize that, things are not normal. And if your child isn't sleeping as well as normally, some of that's to be not a surprise, not to be expected. I don't mean to say it's okay, because obviously children need their sleep. I was thinking of a few things too. Just exercise is a great kind of way to exhaust your body. And I'm thinking too, when we were, the way that one of the main ways we deal with anxiety is making a child feel safe. And one of my thoughts was, it is important to validate there are real concerns, to talk about it, to name it, and then reassure the child in whatever way you can that even if you don't feel entirely safe or secure yourself, you're worrying about your next paycheck or, whether you're going to get sick while working in the hospital. But to reassure the child that your family is a strong unit, you love the child, and you will stay together, and all the precautions you take to stay healthy. And then, any kind of routine you can do. There's, stories, if they can listen to music at night, yoga, breathing, exercises. Yeah, sorry, it's a tough time for sleep.
Tough time in general.
Yeah.
Our next question, any advice for families with multiple children with an IEP? We're struggling to support all three of ours, grades 3, 8, and 10.
I'm laughing because I'm thinking, I think there's you're getting gold stars in heaven or something when you have 3 kids on IEP. That's really tough. Their needs are different, and they probably need you each a lot more than you really have the time or energy for. So
I would think about, one simplistic response is simply to say, see if one of them can teach the others, if the older one can help out the younger ones, so on and so forth. But then I would go back to that kind of documenting, making sure that you have in your records how much your children are able to do independently, how much they're able to get done while at home, because you want to be able to have a record of progress that was made or not made. And if progress can't be made, that's a reality on the ground. You can't teach 3 children 3 different subject levels, particularly if they all have different needs, different learning needs. And again, feel free to be the squeaky wheel. Ask the team for more online time with a teacher or a therapist, for more strategies, how they manage, whether it's behaviors or attention, things like that.
Okay.
I was just going to jump in. This is Julia from MAC with one other thought to add on to, first of all, great presentation, both of you, Nancy and Stephanie, thank you, and such useful information. Schools, I don't know if your particular school yet has provided a remote learning plan, but schools are expected to provide every family a remote learning plan for your child that also will lay out the schedule of when your child will be getting different services and instruction from the school. And I think it's also really reasonable to to raise the same issue with the school, the way Nancy was talking about, and make sure that the schedule, have them work collaboratively to make sure the schedule can work for the 3 kids, because you're going to have 3 different teams that you're working with. So the school should help you with the schedule that works given your situation. Not that any of this is easy, but
Yeah.
And I just put a link to blank and sample remote learning plans from our website in the chat box. You can check that out as well. Thank you, everyone. That brings us to our next question. This might also be good for you, Julia. What if the service providers are refusing one-on-one teleconferencing? What can parents do?
am I on mute? Can you hear me?
You're live.
That's a really good question. That's a question that we're hearing from a lot of parents. I guess there's 2 things to know. One, the state has been really clear that the school district should be looking at what the services that are in your child's IEP and clearly making their best efforts to provide the services that are consistent with your child's needs as reflected in the IEP. So if the school is saying point blank, we're not going to provide any one-on-one services for your child, then I think there's a range of advocacy steps that you could take. The first would be to write to the team chair or to the special ed director to say, you certainly understand that the school district has, been very busy trying to roll out these services, but this is a service in your child's IEP that's really important. You might want to explain why it's so important for your child right now in terms of what's happening for them while they're home without services, and to push for that informally. And then again, if you meet the barrier there, we've got the same options that you do when schools are open in terms of, there's a number that the Department of Ed has that parents can call, which is actually the same number for where you can file complaints. The Office for the Child Advocate, I think Lilia might be able to give all these this information in the comments, is another place that is trying to track barriers that families are facing. Call our helpline, because if we know more of the specifics, we might be able to help you, and we're developing different templates that families can find. I think now that it's very clear the schools are going to be closed longer, I think the state will be expecting the school districts to be working to develop more robust services. They still may not be able to implement all the services that are in the IEP. I think we can anticipate that they won't be able to, which is why the documentation is so important. But it's very reasonable to advocate.
Thank you, Julia.
Thanks, Julia.
Next question. My 12-year-old daughter is having a difficult time transitioning to online. How can I help her to feel comfortable chatting online with peers and teachers?
I'm not sure I fully understand. Is it shyness? Is it usually kids are pretty comfortable with technology? Is it maybe that, can that person write a little bit more about the specific issue? Like,
yeah, Dara Joyce, can you give us some more information about what's going on?
You know, I actually have heard about something like this. I'm going to take a guess. This is a little bit of shyness that I've heard of other kids having, especially little kids, having a hard time dealing with the whole, split screen kind of thing, and how do you get someone's attention and people looking at you and stuff like that. And I think unfortunately, the situation that I heard about, the teacher she did a little more shaming than anything else, but I'm thinking that would be a good conversation to have with the teacher, to let the teacher know that this child is having some difficulty. And is there anything the teacher could do to be a little more inviting if that's the problem, or help her feel a little more comfortable, or, just sort of check in with her, ask her to check in with her about what's hard for her about the remote learning.
She's saying she feels that it's too personal and her boundaries are blurred.
Interesting. I don't know. Is there a creative way that she could do part as a small group, as we're doing now? A meeting with several students at once. I don't know. Might take more setup.
Mm-hmm.
But see, this is the thing. This is why I think the stuff that we're talking about in terms of talking with your team, the child's team, is really important too. I mean, for them to know specifically what is the problem, how is this, we're all just making this up as we go. I mean, we're doing the best we can, but it's going to work for some kids and not work for other kids, and we're not going to be able to anticipate some of the problems. This isn't actually, it's interesting, maybe this is a one-to-one situation, because that's not usually the reaction. Sometimes kids feel that there's a little more distance with the one-to-one, with the remote, but that teacher needs to know about that. If a kid,
you said she said she's 12, right? So she's kind of a tween.
Yeah.
That kind of, not wanting to stand out, not wanting to have the teacher total attention.
And I think, like, there's a note under here. I think my suggestion was going to be, if it's possible, why does she have to show her face? She can hear her voice, and she's more comfortable with just, not having the video part of it. I don't know. That would be.
Yeah. But I think you're right. That just talk with the team and do some creative problem solving if they can.
And I would really underscore that, because we've actually heard from many families for whom, for really across many disability types, it's been difficult for the kids to actually be able engaged through the technology for a whole host of reasons. And then you're talking about basic access, right? If the school district's offering instruction or services that your child can't access because of their different types of special needs, then it's really important educationally and legally to talk to the team about it, write to the team about it, and the difficult thing, as Stephanie was saying, is they're figuring out these technologies as we go. But if they don't hear from you to understand the way you just explained to us what the barriers are that your child's facing, then they can't use their team of experts to figure out the solution. But there is going to be trial and error as we're figuring this out over time. That's what's so hard, as you watch your kids struggle.
Yeah.
Thank you. We're also getting a lot of good advice in the chat box as well. So if you're not looking there, thank you everyone for jumping in on that. Okay, next question. My teen strongly resists a schedule and any contact with her school.
Oh, yes.
I can relate to that. So even though she's in a private special education school, she is barely completing any work at all. What else can the school realistically do to help?
So I just got into the chat box. Now I'm distracted.
Well, here's the thing. The place I would start from is that, especially with all kids, but especially with teenagers, you've got to sort of, come to them and include them into the solution. And so, I guess one of the questions this is again going, is there somebody at her school that she feels the most comfortable with? Maybe it's a teacher, maybe it's a counselor, whatever. And then talk with, sit down and say, look, okay, here, be able to have a conversation with that person, and to find a way to sort of connect a little bit around, what specifically is the problem here? Is it it's like she's not in school and she doesn't work if she's not in school, so she's not going to work if she's not in school? Or is it it's just really hard to get organized, or, you know, we can sit here and generate a million different reasons why kids will have trouble engaging, but what is it for her? And what does she need, you know, what does she think would be helpful for her? And sort of start from there. That would be what I would want to suggest. Nancy, do you have?
Sorry, I got distracted reading things. Were we talking about a teacher refusing or the school refusing?
This is a teenager who doesn't want to be involved with scheduling or anything with school.
Oh, the teenager's not wanting to be involved. Gosh.
And she's in a private school, special ed school. So my suggestion was, who is she closest to in the school, and can she sit down with that person and to talk about what's the problem here? You know, what's going on? What is really the barrier for her?
Yeah, yeah, and it sort of depends on the teen's level of there's, you know, not knowing the child as I think you were saying that, Stephanie, what the specific issue is for her that is important to figure out, and trying to create some incentives for her to, you know, motivation and incentives for her, whether that's kind of a tangible rewards or more intellectually, you want to do this so you can graduate. And
you know, and this is one where I go back to the take a deep breath. Just remembering, my children are all grown up now. They're wonderful children. I have some survivor guilt about, you know, talking with people now who don't, you know, I'm not into the same kind of thing that you guys are in, but, you know, this is where as a parent, to be able to take the deep breath and just be calm for a minute and just sort of ask this, you know, if there's a time where you can, in a very neutral setting, not when there's been a big blow up, you know, maybe you're taking a walk or taking out the trash or doing something where he's kind of busy and they're not really looking at you, saying, you know, what's going on with you and not going to school, and just have out of a calm conversation. It may be that the kid's having needs to put it in words first and doesn't really know how to do that. And if you can have a calm conversation and just drop it if it gets hot and go back to it when it's cooled off, that could be a way to sort of help the kid sort of structure what she wants to say with the teacher, with the school.
And the only thing I would underscore is what people were talking about in terms of documenting. I mean, again,
Right.
there's a reason your child needs the structure of what's being provided in the private special ed school. And now they're expected to learn without that structure. It's, you know, there's a lot that's missing. So in a polite but clear, strong way to document that, and then hopefully the team will work with you, as everybody's talking about, to develop the solutions, but it's really tough.
Yep.
And hopefully that we will go back to a more structured school day someday, God, please, dear God. And some of these can be provided as compensatory services.
Okay. Thank you. We have time for just a couple more questions. Next question is, my child has trouble with math. Teacher is covering new material and my child relies on me to teach him. I'm working and I'm not great at math. Is there anything the school can provide in terms of instruction?
I'm laughing because I'm thinking, oh my God, of all the terrible things, how can you, like, as a parent, you know, what's your worst nightmare? I'm going to have to teach this kid math now? So, what do you think, Nance?
I think we have to have reasonable expectations, and you're not a math teacher, and you can't, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could say to the teacher, and one of the things I might say to them is, okay, if you can show me how to do a geometry, you know, theorem, fine, but I don't know how to do that. So, you know, we need to sort of talk about how to help my kid who needs to have, you know, maybe his needs are different. Maybe he needs to really reinforce old skills. But that's where the tracking, again, the data keeping is really important too.
And communicating with the team about this isn't working and what can we do? Is there anyone else there? Is there an aide or anyone who can play the role of, you know, reinforcing teacher, the one who goes over things again? or changing the curriculum entirely, as Stephanie's sort of suggesting, for this kid for this period of time, recognizing that there may need to be some catch up at some point. It'll be interesting to see what schools do with summer services. You know, that I don't know.
Yeah.
Talked about in terms, you know, I know we're all just trying to keep our head above water right now and just found out that schools will be closed through June, but is there any way to, if a child does, you know, not catch all the new content in math that's being provided now, is there a way to get some compensatory small group math instruction online over the summer?
You know, the other one other thing I would say, just it's a little off, but there's always Khan Academy too. You guys know about Khan Academy?
Yeah.
So it's a free online program, and they have little videos on like how to do pretty much anything, especially around math. But
I like the comment here from someone that the teacher got on video chat with the math teacher and got taught math herself.
okay. Well, yeah. I mean, really, what do you expect?
Yeah, math is tough for a lot of people. I feel for you, whoever submitted that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. This might be good for all three of you. What is the legal obligation of schools during these times to provide counseling services or any type of therapy to help ease anxiety for students?
My first thought is if it is already on the IEP, I think they do have a legal obligation to provide, again, as best they can. If it's not on the IEP, I'm not sure how much leverage you have. Julia, do you want to take that?
I think if it's not on the IEP and their anxiety is making it so they can't access the instruction and services that are being offered, then I think the law would still say that the school district, to the extent that they can right now with their schools closed, they need to provide services that'll help to, it's kind of more like a basic access issue. That if your child can't access the instruction because of anxiety and you feel like counseling services, whether they're the gen ed counseling or the special ed counseling is what's going to help them be able to have equal access, then I think you can still make the argument and, you know, certainly start by asking. And if you don't get what you feel like your child needs so they can participate in learning, then I think the law would back you in continuing to pursue that. Again, these are all new areas of law, they're all new areas of techniques, but I think it's really clear that schools have to be doing what they can to make it so that instruction and services are accessible to all kids, which includes kids with different types of special needs, some of which are very prone to anxiety. Does that make sense in terms of?
Are they, I'm just wondering about the logistical hassles of trying to get you know, a team meeting up and running and things added to an IEP, but I guess you wouldn't need to do that. You could just try to have the school provide it informally.
Right, and there's, I mean, it gets a little complicated, but I'd say if those are issues that you're facing, call our helpline, because there are different things that you could do procedurally and legally to make sure that your kid can access what's being offered.
Also just really check and make sure. I hear such a wide range of the way that different schools are responding to this whole situation. And I think that, you know, I have some schools where they're bending over backwards to make, you know, counseling and social emotional support available, and others where it's like, yeah, we don't have time for that. So I think it really depends.
So again, if you have more questions or you haven't been able to answer, Lilia, just provide, and more questions specific to the needs of your own child, please feel free to call or email our helpline. Are we wrapping up now, Lilia?
Yeah, I think that's it for questions. Did you have any closing thoughts you wanted to add?
Nancy and Stephanie, any closing thoughts?
Thank you, Mass Advocates, for
yes,
thank you.
having a helpline.
I noticed that we're up to 67 participants at one point, and going, wow, that's
there's
really
a
glad you
lot
guys are
of
doing
things
this
out there.
Yeah,
And again, we can talk from a theoretical standpoint, but when people really need help, you guys are there to follow
Well,
through.
Well, thank you, but thank you really to both of you. We are so fortunate to have two women who are of such amazing expertise and experience, and your willingness to share it with families and kids who are struggling because of COVID-19. It's very generous and just pearls of wisdom. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Julia.
It's been terrific.
Anytime.
Thanks for having us. Yeah.
Thank you.
so much.
I
Bye-bye.
also want to let everyone know the poll is still open. I'm not sure if it's collecting responses. This is our first time doing it, so I'm a little nervous. Can people let us know in the chat box if you would prefer 30 minutes or 1 hour for next week's chat? And then any suggestions for future topics for future meetings? We
Can you
can
post the
do.
poll again, Lilia? Because I don't see it anymore, but I saw it at the beginning.
It goes away after you've voted, but okay. People are.
Yeah, I'm seeing it, but yeah.
And
Okay,
I'm not
thank
saying
you,
it because I
everyone.
voted.
All right.
Yeah.
Good night. Thank
Take
you.
care then.
And
Good
then
luck,
any
everybody. Stay safe.
Yep.
Yes,
Thank
everybody
you.
stay
Bye,
safe.
thank
Thank you
you.
again.
Bye-bye.
Any
I'll
suggestions
hold
for
on for a
future
while.
future topics as well? Law and advocacy, transition services, ABA, transition from early intervention, or anything else that people suggest. Just put that in the chat box.
Great.